amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and our guide this month is titled The Complexities of Inherited IRAs. Mike, a lot of this complexity started at the end of 2019. What are we seeing now in terms of how inherited IRAs are treated today versus how they were treated before?
The biggest change is for people other than a spouse, and I'm going to overly generalize here, but as a rule of thumb, if you are inheriting a retirement account from someone other than your spouse, most likely you are going to need to empty that account within a 10-year time period and probably take a required minimum amount every single year, although the IRS has been willing to waive that since the rules were changed.
Now, as you mentioned, they've waived that each of the last 4 years, but there's no guarantee that they will in the future. Is it worthwhile for investors to talk with their tax professional and advisor to figure out what the best plan is to minimize taxation over that 10-year period anyways?
I mean, even if they don't waive the penalty, even if you do have to take a minimum amount, you should be planning this, right? Because if you just wait, then you might end up being surprised at the end of year 10 when all of a sudden I've got this massive account to withdraw and I have a whole bunch of taxation to realize, and it starts impacting everything from my Medicare premiums to my capital gains rates to everything under the sun.
The guide this month is titled The Complexities of Inherited IRAs, and there are two ways you can request it. The first is by calling 800-393-4001. The second is by going to ArmstrongAdvisory.com. That phone number again is 800-393-4001, or you can request the guide at ArmstrongAdvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or a week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. World cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. Go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, DESE is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
It is Chuck, Mike, and Tucker with you on a Jobs Friday. 8:30 this morning, the Bureau of Labor Statistics published the non-farm payroll report, and what we saw was a gain of 272,000 jobs for the month of May. Despite that, the unemployment rate ticked up 0.1% to 4%. We'll reconcile that discrepancy in just a moment for you. And the other number that is very closely followed on this is average hourly earnings, and those ticked up at a rate of 0.4% for the month compared to expectations of 0.2%. Markets interpreted this as a hot jobs report, and so you ended up with the 10-year U.S. Treasury selling off about 14 basis points to 4.43%. And you had the S&P 500 at one point this morning down as much as 20 points, but subsequently rallied back pretty close to flat. Your thoughts, Mike, on the jobs report?
By pretty much every measure, hotter than anticipated. We had talked about kind of our framework for going into this jobs report yesterday on the program, and the general conclusion was if you're up over 200,000 jobs created, then that is going to put more pressure on the Fed on this narrative over the last few weeks. And it's been very concentrated in just the last couple of weeks of, look at all this bad data about the economy. Fed's going to have to cut rates again. And so, one of the items that we've been looking at would be that July 31st meeting on the Federal Reserve. And yesterday, the likelihood of a rate cut was sitting at about just shy of 22% at that July 31st meeting. Now, sitting at less than 10% likelihood of that outcome. And so what does this report do? Well, again, we'll talk about the unemployment piece to this thing, but between the number of jobs created approaching 300,000 and between all signs on both the hours being worked and the average pay for those employees on the hours worked, on the hours worked side remaining flat and on the pay going up, would, I think, reemphasize to the Federal Reserve that maybe this policy is not quite as restrictive as we think it is.
I have a different take on this jobs report.
Let's hear it.
And it's a good one. I don't think...
Says the guy whose take it is.
No, I think I'm actually going to be able to back this up,
right.
and that people listening will say, wow, that was really good. I think this is actually a report that looks strong at first, that under the surface is actually showing continued weakness in the data that started, 6-8 weeks ago. Here's where I get this from. A couple different pieces. The first, the jobs report that we get every month is actually two different surveys that are put together. There's one where they survey, I forget the exact number, it's like somewhere between 10 and 12,000 or 10 and 16,000 companies, and say, hey guys, how many people did you hire? How many did you fire? What are you paying them? How many hours are they working? Blah, 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 blah. It's what's called the establishment survey. That's where you get the jobs number that's popularly reported. It's where you get hourly earnings. It's where you get weekly hours data. it's that stuff is in there. The other survey that's conducted is of, I think it's between like 80 and 100,000 households, and they say, hey, households, we have some questions for you as well. Are you employed? Are you part-time, full-time? If you're unemployed, how long have you been unemployed? Those kinds of questions. And here's what we're seeing. The establishment survey, asking companies, 272,000 jobs created. Yoo-hoo! That's great. The household survey, 408,000 jobs lost. Mike, that's a 700,000 job difference.
So again, you talk to employers and they're saying we created nearly 300,000 jobs. You talk to people and they're saying
we lost 400,000.
400,000. Pretty big divergence.
I don't know which one is right, and I'll be the first to admit I don't know which one's right. Okay, throw a dart somewhere in the middle. Job growth is somewhere in the ballpark of negative 75,000. Do I think it's like actually there? No. Most economists who look at this combination say, hey, weight the establishment data 2-to-1, and that gets you somewhere where it's like, yeah, we probably added like 50 to 70,000 jobs last month, kind of around stall speed. Other things that we saw in that household survey, the labor force participation rate dropped from 62.7% to 62.5%. It's a meaningful drop. 433,000 people dropped out of the labor force. Okay, that's something. And so, this is, again, feeding into it. The unemployment rate, which is calculated here, even despite the labor force being smaller, went from 3.9 to 4%. That doesn't really feel great there. And the other piece on this that I think we have to pay attention to, the number of people that are unemployed for 27 weeks and over, even though the number of unemployed has only gone from 6.1 million to 6.6 million in the last year, a third of that increase has been people unemployed for 27 weeks and over. So you're seeing the duration of unemployment getting longer, which speaks to the slowdown in hiring that we have seen as evidenced by the JOLTS report. So that's some of the stuff that you get just from the household data. Now, people will say, well, look, that's one survey, Chuck. There's another one. Okay, here's another data point from the establishment data. One of my favorite data series in here is what's called aggregate payroll growth. And it's what happens when you combine the actual growth in the number of people that are working with the actual money that people are making in any given point in time. So it's job growth combined with wage growth. If you look at 2 months ago, aggregate payroll growth was running 5.8%. Last month it was year over year. Yep. Last year it was 5.6. Last month it was 5.6. This month it dropped to 5.4. It's the continuation of a downtrend there. And so
it's only been a 3-month downtrend, but it's a significant uptick from where we were in January of this year.
Well, yes, look, there was like a 1 or 2 month outlier, I think, but overall it's like a 2-year downtrend that's continuing here.
Yep.
And so my take on this jobs report is that it is a weak one dressed up in strong clothing. And that the underlying data, I'm not sure is nearly as strong as what the headline stuff looks like. The other piece on this is that we are now within sniffing distance of triggering what we call the SOM rule. We don't call it that. Claudia Somm, who invented it, calls it the SOM rule. Claudia spent a number of years at the Federal Reserve and the Council of Economic Advisors. And here's how the SOM rule works. If the 3-month moving average of the unemployment rate, so take the last 3 months and average them, rises by 0.5 percentage point or more relative to its low in the previous 12 months, signals the start of a recession. The SOM recession indicator, as of right now, is at 0.37%. So we're getting closer. It is not yet triggered, but this is now, in a spot that is tied for the highest it has been in this business cycle with April. Again, kind of showing like, yes, there's some slowing that's kind of clustering right now and that's starting to build up here. So does this point to recession right now? No, I still don't think so. But it is something where, hey, you start to look out, towards, what things could look like in Q4 of this year, and it's starting to point that way. And I know this looks like a hot jobs report. Maybe it is, and I'm completely off base. But I think this is a sneaky cool jobs report, actually.
I see all of your points. The aggregate payroll growth has been slowing. The SOM rule has stuck where it is at this uptick in unemployment. My counterpoint to any of that would be we are seeing a lot of divergent data when we talk to households in general. Households in general have been very, very pessimistic, and I fail to see any... I see very little corresponding data from any other surveys about the labor market that would indicate much of a slowdown.
Why would someone lie about losing a job?
Yeah, I
to
hear
a survey.
No, I don't think there's any real reason to do so. So I don't think people are lying about having lost a job. I merely think we are not seeing this in weekly unemployment claims. We're not seeing it in the job openings, labor turnover survey. There are a few pieces here where I'm just saying,
what if it's not?
Okay, if I lost my job, why am I not filing for unemployment? If I'm the corporation, why am I not responding to these other surveys, looking at layoffs and things like that? And maybe it's not. Maybe that's what it is. It's not layoffs. It's just more people that aren't able to find their work. I'm not sure where to go with that, but many of the other surveys are not indicating any sort of big uptick here.
No, and look, I don't have any good explanation for this, but this one feels odd to me. And I don't normally say that. I'm not saying like the data's manipulated. That's not what I mean by odd. I'm saying this looks hot at first, but you start poking around the underlying data and you're like,
What do you do with the I know looking at the aggregate payrolls and stuff like that, but I think one specific item of average hourly earnings, that percentage increase doubling is fairly significant here, right? You've got
1 month.
You've got 14 cents a bump up. Yeah, that's fair. It's 1 month. 0.4% payroll growth is, if it were to continue, very hot.
Yeah, it would be.
Yep.
I just... It's 1 month, which is why all of this you kind of look at and you say, okay, throw it into the mix and see what happens. I'm still not convinced that all of a sudden there was this giant receleration in May in hiring. Because here's the other thing you got to remember about hiring in May. Those decisions were made in February. Okay, we're going to post the job in January. We're going to interview in February. We'll hire the person in March. They start May 1st.
Yeah.
That's... I'm not sure there's any there, but we'll see what ends up happening on this. What I do know is that this report, regardless of what it is being interpreted as hot by markets because you got the bond market selling off like the Fed's not cutting.
Right.
And that's the piece that matters right now. The piece that's interesting as an investor. You're always looking for areas where you disagree with the consensus, and not just for the sake of disagreement, because most of the time the consensus is actually right. Like, that's the thing that you have to remember. It doesn't. If you really want to be a contrarian all the time, then try shorting the stock market in perpetuity and just see how wrecked you get. So occasionally it can pay to be contrarian, and this is one where you I look at the data and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Now, I could also be completely wrong on this, and if in a couple months we have like 2 more reports that print 300K, I'll eat some crow. Not real crow because it's not my favorite meat. It's a little chewy, a little dry, but some metaphorical crow. Oh, I'm game for that. Saute it up. Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, that's enough on that. Let's talk China after this. We'll talk about China and their exports when we return.
The latest news on inflation, the Fed, the economy, and how the markets are reacting every morning, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network. Creating a trust is oftentimes the first step in the estate planning process. It helps you prepare for the unknown as well as the inevitable. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are the most common types of trusts, but there are significant differences between the two. So before you make that crucial decision, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. Ask for their new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts. Let them help you understand which may be right for you and your family and protect the wealth that you've achieved throughout your working years. Protecting your assets is paramount to being able to enjoy your retirement years, so call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free guide today. Give yourself the peace of mind you need as you build your estate plan. Again, that number is 866-848-5699, or request the guide online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or a week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. World cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. Go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Find daily interviews and full shows of the Financial Exchange on our YouTube page. Like us on YouTube and get caught up on anything and everything you might have missed. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
This segment of the Financial Exchange is brought to you in part by the U.S. Virgin Islands Department of Tourism. The U.S. Virgin Islands is the perfect destination for your next vacation. Enjoy St. Croix, St. Thomas, or St. John, and enjoy pristine beaches, world-class dining, and fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. There's no passport required or money to exchange. Go to visitusvi.com and book your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
China. Discuss.
Come on, give me a little bit more than that. So we've been talking about the oversupply of manufactured goods that China has sitting within their borders because they really only know one way to get themselves out of a recession, it seems, which is pour money into industrial production and hope that the rest of the world will buy your stuff. So they've been doing that the last few years, and unsurprisingly, they have found that they have an oversupply of a whole bunch of things like EVs and refrigerators and washing machines and all sorts of fun stuff, and now they are trying to get rid of it, and we will see if developed nations around the world are willing to take it at discount or are going to hit it with a whole bunch of tariffs.
And I think in an ideal world, if I were a rational person.
A rational person in charge of what? Because I'm assuming you're going to be making a decision.
If I were a rational person in charge of import-export policy for a country,
yeah,
I would say, look, if you want to give us a bunch of cheap socks, fine, send them. You want to give us a bunch of cheap washing machines? Fine, send them.
Yeah.
You want to give us a bunch of cheap dishwashers? Send them. You want to send us a bunch of, like, cheap steel that's going to put our ability to make... Nope, we're going to tariff the heck out of it.
So, I'm 100% with you. I think the question is, obviously, if you are the CEO of... Who owns Whirlpool? KitchenAid?
At this point, I don't know, but that sounds right.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
If you're the CEO of that company and in charge of however many employees...
Other way around. Whirlpool owns KitchenAid.
Okay. So, I'm sure both of them make all sorts of stuff that China is now competing with them on. In fact, China owns...
Well, let's be honest. They probably make most of it in
Very
China.
likely. Very likely, yes. But, U.S. headquartered company that I'm sure has some made in America presence. You are lobbying the living heck out of Gina Raimondo and the Biden administration to say, don't allow this subsidized garbage into our country because it's going to put my company out of business. It's unfair trade, and don't let it happen. And they have a compelling argument that it is unreasonable subsidized products coming out of China. And what do you do about it? I think that's, or if you are, there's the big German
BMW.
Appliance company. German-made appliances. Hold
Bosch?
on. Yeah, I want to say Bosch.
Who's Bach?
B-O-C-H.
The composer?
No.
You sure you're not thinking about Bosch?
Bosch.
Bosch
and
Excuse me. Bosch and
Bosch.
Miele. M-I-E-L-E.
Yes.
Again, same story there. You make this stuff. I'm sure some of it is manufactured in that country.
We're so good at words.
And you are making that same compelling argument. And again, where do we draw this?
Bach.
Where do we draw this line? Where do we draw the line? What are the goods that we say are national security concerns? Which ones do we say, no, this is just strategic to us? We need to have solar panels, for instance, manufactured in the United States. I don't think so. But recognize that if you let this stuff in, then, yeah, it's going to hurt the bottom line of a bunch of American companies.
Bach. Who was a German composer, actually.
I wasn't too far off.
Another German export, might I add.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, I don't know if he ever left Germany, to be honest.
It can still be a German export even if he never left.
He died in Leipzig, I know. Which is...
How do you know that?
Why do you know that?
That's the better question.
Do you even know where Leipzig is?
Germany.
Never heard of it till now.
I don't know. I've never been there. Do you know, by the way, seltzer, another German import, it's named after a German river that is naturally effervescent, and so seltzers...
We'll be right back.
Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter @TFE Show. Breaking business news is always first, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Are you retired like me, and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it, and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the Tax Relief Line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or a week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. World cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all 3 islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. Go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
This is Tucker Silva of the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today we're talking about the differences between revocable and irrevocable trusts. Todd, when would it make sense to use an irrevocable trust versus a revocable trust?
Yeah, so in this case, you really need to think about a couple of things. One, how much you're worth. Obviously, if you're worth, well over 4 or 5 million, 6 million, probably you're self-insured, so you're not so concerned about nursing home planning, and therefore the irrevocable Medicaid trust that we're talking about here might not be as applicable. But 4 million and under, folks are saying, and the other issue would be over age 60, let's say. And there's no rule of thumb, but 60, 65 is a great time to be thinking about protecting assets from the nursing home because it takes 5 years to do it. So if that's the case, then an irrevocable trust would make sense. And don't be put off by the word irrevocable, because you will find that the differences between revocable and irrevocable, at least these Medicaid trusts, is very, very few and far between. You're still very much in control. You live in your house. You enjoy your income. You manage your money. You buy and sell your property. It doesn't matter that it's irrevocable, so don't be afraid of it.
The estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that will answer the most common questions you have about the differences between revocable and irrevocable trusts. You can request this guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or you can also request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. Time now for Wall Street Watch, a complete look at what's moving markets so far today, right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Well, markets are mixed territory and pretty flat right now as traders react to the May jobs report unveiled this morning, which showed 272,000 jobs were added, last month above forecasts of 190,000. The unemployment rate ticked higher from 3.9% to 4%. Right now, the Dow is up by 53 points. S&P 500 is down by merely 1 point. The NASDAQ is off by 33 points. Russell 2000 down by nearly 0.2%. 10-year Treasury yield up by 13 basis points, now at 4.42%, and crude oil is up by over 0.75%, trading just above $76 a barrel. GameStop surprised Wall Street this morning after unexpectedly posting first quarter earnings amid the resurfacing of the latest meme stock craze. The video game retailer, who was originally expected to release earnings next Tuesday, said its net sales were down 29% from a year earlier. Speaking of the meme stock craze, Keith Gill, a.k.a. Roaring Kitty, is scheduled to stream live on YouTube at noon today for the first time since 2021. GameStop shares are volatile today, now down by 20%. Meanwhile, NVIDIA shares are down by 1.5%, ahead of its 10-for-1 stock split that will take place after the market closed today. The chipmaker surpassed $3 trillion in market valuation earlier this week. And Lyft shares are up by about 2% after a few analysts upgraded the ride-hailing company's stock to buy after the company's investor day yesterday. Lyft said it expects a gross bookings compound annual growth rate of about 15% between the years of 2024 and 2027. I'm Tucker Silva, and that's Wall Street Watch.
Mike, can we talk GameStop?
I think we have to.
For a little bit?
Yeah. Tucker mentioned it in passing, and so I don't think we can let the moment pass.
So I want to talk a little bit just about how dumb this has gotten now. Because it's very, very dumb. And I don't mean... No, actually I do. Everything about it's dumb right now.
Okay.
So here are the different levels of dumbness that I'm seeing. As of the close of yesterday, based on, again, another updated screenshot that Keith Gill, Roaring Kitty, posted, his account that's held wherever it is, like Morgan Stanley, I think it is. Or
E-Trade.
Who's
which
owned
is
by
owned
Morgan
by Morgan
Stanley.
Stanley, correct.
$500 million.
Who is considering booting him off the platform, by the way.
$500 million.
Okay.
Mike, I can tell you that if I made $500 million in 3 years, I would just disappear into the abyss and you would never hear from me again.
That's a fair point. Like, what is the...
I would just quit.
Yeah.
Because it's not like he's running, like, a business.
Right.
It's not like he's like, no, like, I'm running a hedge fund. No, like, you just bought a bunch of GameStop YOLO options, and then it worked. Like, great. Like, you won. Leave the casino. What is he freaking doing scheduling a live stream for new... Like,
who do you think you are?
And furthermore, he ended up, like, writing this whole, like, giant disclosure that's now up on his YouTube feed that's, like, basically, like, don't, like, pay any attention to what I'm doing. So he's clearly nervous that someone's going to, you know, look at this and be like, oh, like, you're giving investment advice. He's like, you can really just, like, be like, oh, no, like, I'm telling you to buy these, like, options, and then hand wave it away like, no, it's not investment advice.
Yeah, you can't disclose your way out of doing something wrong.
You know, like, so I look at that and I'm like, okay.
You can't tell everybody this is not investment advice and then specifically give them investment advice.
So that's level one dumb in my opinion. It's like, dude, you won. All you have to do now is be quiet. You made $500 million. Okay,
Chuck, I mean, yes. With you, 100%,
Michael.
But this is greed, right? This is the same thing we see out of every time somebody thinks that they are a genius and get overinflated.
And this is why I'm saying that he's dumb.
Yeah, it is dumb.
You know, like, again, he might have been very smart to do this, but he's playing the metagame very poorly in that, like, dude, just go away and take your money and no one will, like, bother you.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you start doing live streams. How many SEC enforcement officers are just going to be watching that thing like, say something. Say something. Like, just go away, man.
Yeah. We talked about it yesterday, how you just sitting there and posting a meme that does not mention GameStop whatsoever doesn't seem illegal. It looks like nothing you did was wrong. This, good luck.
Dumb level 2. The people who immediately pile in after, like, oh, like, I'm going to be able to do what... No, you're not. GameStop stock yesterday was up 30%. After hours trading, it was up 30% beyond that. So it went from, $31 to $46 yesterday, and then was trading around $63, $64 after hours. GameStop comes out today. Hey, guess what we're doing? We're going to do a 75 million share issuance, a 20% dilution of our shareholders. We only have 300 million shares outstanding. We're going to issue 75 million new shares and dilute the heck out of you because
you're stupid.
Hey, even if we price at $30 a share, we just raised $2.25 billion from you idiots. And now GameStop stock, by the way, down 20% today to 36 and change.
Well, and to go along with that, because I'm sure that they are feeling a bit of pressure to disclose what's going on with the core fundamentals of their business. Not only did they announce this massive share
They
issuance,
announced their earnings like 3 weeks early.
They brought their earnings ahead, and by the way, they're hot garbage.
They're
no
terrible.
surprise, but they are hot garbage earnings. They're a dumpster fire. Their earnings are down. I'm trying to. Where was the?
They were down
number?
29% year over year for revenue, and the earnings. I don't even know where. Like, are they even profitable? I don't know.
No, they lost money.
So, okay, yeah, I think they lost like $32 million or something like that.
Again.
Free cash
if you're GameStop,
free cash flow for the last 12 months is negative $238 million.
If you're GameStop and the executives there, I actually think you're doing the exact right thing at the exact right time. Why wouldn't you issue a bunch of shares to these, what do they call themselves?
Apes?
Well, apes, and then there is Degens is the new one that I've been hearing about, which is stands for degenerate gamblers. Why wouldn't you raise a whole bunch of money if people are willing to buy your unprofitable stock that has made 30% less revenue over the last 12 months?
They're going to raise like $2 billion today. Now, here's the thing. Mike and I were talking before the show. Ryan Cohen, who is the Chewy guy, still is the CEO of GameStop, actually. He is.
Oh.
Now, Ryan Cohen had some questionable stuff with Bed Bath & Beyond a couple of years ago as well that looked really kind of fishy. So this whole thing is kind of like the questionable leading the, degenerate. Like it's all just, nothing feels good about this whole situation. So they're going to raise like probably $2 to $2.5 billion on this. And then the question is, well, what do you do with it?
Flush it down the toilet.
Because here's the thing. So there have been AMC, just as an example, a couple of years ago, raised a bunch of money. And then do you remember that they bought a gold mine?
Yeah, I do.
What were you have movie theaters and you're buying a gold, are you going to do that? Because it feels like that's how this dumb thing ends, is like, here's how.
Which, sometimes the blind get lucky. That might have actually paid off given what gold's done over the last 2 years.
I'm sure it hasn't made a material improvement to AMC's earnings because they probably don't know how to run it.
Probably not.
They're probably like, let's put some popcorn in there and see what happens.
Yeah.
But this whole thing feels like it's going to end with GameStop going out and buying like a bunch of crypto or issuing a crypto token or something like that. And just like something like just nothing good feels like it's going to come from this.
What if they just paid down a bunch of debt and closed a bunch of their stores? Wouldn't that be incredible?
They don't,
the responsible thing to do.
They don't have that much debt in the broad scheme of things. Their total liabilities outstanding are $1.3 billion. Total long-term debt is $28 million. Like, the problem is not that they have like a massive amount of debt. It's that they're just not profitable. Like, they just can't make money because that's not how people buy video games anymore.
Right.
So
this has never been about the fundamentals of whether or not GameStop will ever make money.
You could make a case like 3 years ago that it might have been before this all started.
Yeah.
Like, hey, here's how we can turn the company around. Today, it's not really that.
Right.
But I just find this whole thing, just watching it from afar, it's like, oh, it's just a bunch of, it's turned into just
Hullabaloo.
A bunch of odious characters everywhere. And I don't even know who you root for in this because it's just a mess. Like, at first you're kind of like, oh, like, yeah, like Keith Gill sticking it to the man. And now you're like, dude, you already won. What are you doing? It just looks grifty now. It's like he's trying to, like, hang on for, like, one last rush.
I think you root for the regulator.
I don't know who you root for on this. you feel bad for the people that are piling into it that got wrecked overnight where they're like, oh, it's up 30%. I'm going to make it. Nope, it's down 20.
Yep.
You know, like you feel bad for them because they're just getting sucked in a lot of cases with a significant amount of their life savings. And it's like buyer beware.
Yeah, you know who you're not rooting against. It's those folks.
No, you're not rooting against them, but it's like, guys, you got to know better.
Well, how many times have we said it? Play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, it's just kind of heartbreaking to watch when a stock loses 50% in the first hour and a half of trading compared to where it was pre-market.
Just wait till noon.
What do you think he's even going to say at noon?
No idea. Tune in.
I don't know, and I really hope that he has some good lawyers that are advising him on what to say and what not to say at this point.
I don't. I hope it's off the chain. I hope it's just completely off the rails.
I don't know. I guess I always root for a positive resolution to things, so I hope that the best emerges from situations.
Yeah. Sometimes you just got to hope for it to burn down.
I'm just not sure that it's going to in this case, and it's just
crazy to watch.
It's tough. It really is. Let's take a break here. When we come back, you want to talk young job seekers after that? Or do you want to talk Trump tax cuts?
Let's talk Trump tax cuts.
We'll talk Trump tax cuts when we return.
Miss any of the show? The Financial Exchange Show podcast is available on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit the subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network. There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or a week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. World cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all 3 islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. Go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Inheriting an IRA was a straightforward process until the passage of the Secure Act in 2019 and the more recent changes that have made things a bit more complicated. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and it's really important that you develop a strategy to deal with these changes to the law, or you and your family could face significant tax consequences in the future. If you've inherited money from your spouse, the process remains relatively simple. But if you're inheriting an IRA from someone other than your spouse, there are numerous issues that you'll want to be aware of to protect those assets. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of our new guide called The Complexities of Inherited IRAs. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can also request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Creating a trust is oftentimes the first step in the estate planning process. It helps you prepare for the unknown as well as the inevitable. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are the most common types of trusts, but there are significant differences between the two. So before you make that crucial decision, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. Ask for their new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts. Let them help you understand which may be right for you and your family and protect the wealth that you've achieved throughout your working years. Protecting your assets is paramount to being able to enjoy your retirement years. So call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free guide today. Give yourself the peace of mind you need as you build your estate plan. Again, that number is 866-848-5699, or request the guide online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, Desi is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
This is your home for the most comprehensive coverage of the economy and the trends on Wall Street. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
All right, we got a couple pieces here. One from the Wall Street Journal, another from Bloomberg on the Trump tax cuts, which are set to expire after 2025.
Meaning tax rates would go up in 2026, and they would just be going back to where we were in 2017. But that was pretty substantially higher, really across the board. I think, what was the net result? Something like 70% of American households received a tax cut as part of the Trump tax cuts.
In that ballpark, yeah.
I think something like 5 to 10% actually saw a tax increase because of the Trump's tax cuts, but it was a very small minority in a few high-tax states, such as the one that we are broadcasting from, Massachusetts.
So let's talk first. If you were to simply say, hey, we want to extend these for another decade, the CBO has projected that it is going to cost $4.6 trillion to do so.
Which is probably right. I don't think $4.6 trillion is actually going to be the dollar amount, but we already saw the impact of significant additional deficits from the 2017 tax cuts over the last 7 years. So the age-old argument from Republicans is, hey, these tax cuts are going to raise tax revenue, I think was pretty provably false over the last 7 years.
It's basically, when you look at the two parties that we have today, neither one is really serious about cutting the deficit.
Right. So just toss that out the window, full stop. That's the fact.
In terms of what actually happens, it's obviously going to depend on the outcome of the upcoming elections in November.
Yep.
The most likely outcome, in my opinion, for the vast majority of Americans is that they probably end up seeing no change in their tax rates, because even if policymakers don't extend the full tax cuts, they're very likely to extend any of those cuts, I would say probably for, Americans making under $150,000, which is the vast majority of Americans.
I would think so, too. I would even say under $400,000 seems pretty likely to me. But what I'll also say is that I did think that some of the Biden tax increases were going to go into place after he was elected president, and none of them did. So I've been wrong about this, and I don't think we should undervalue the lack of work that Republicans and Democrats are willing to do together on issues. But this is barely being talked about in election season so far, and definitely is on the table, right? Like, this is absolutely a key item on the table and will vary depending on who wins the November elections.
And it has the potential to affect individuals in some pretty meaningful ways. I mean, look, you could see the estate tax threshold come back down pretty significantly. Yep. Upper income tax brackets could go back up fairly meaningfully as well, from back up to 39.6%, I think it is.
Heck, I mean, big one around here in New England, the SALT cap, right?
Does that go away? Does that stay?
It would go away if they didn't pass anything. So the key takeaway that I have is that taxes are an integral part of your financial plan. When you're planning out the future and looking at how your required distribution is going to impact your tax rates, if you're not factoring in the fact that these very well could sunset and go away and change everything for you, then you're not appropriately approaching your financial plan. It's great to cross your fingers and hope that the Trump tax cuts get locked in, but they very well may not. And if you're not building that into your future scenarios, then I'm here to tell you that you should be, and understand how future changes in tax rates plus changes in your income are going to affect your eventual tax scenario. If you have questions along those lines, give the folks at Armstrong Advisory Group a call. The number's 800-393-4001. We have offices located throughout New England. Happy to sit down with you in person and evaluate your personal finances and how taxes are going to impact your final retirement scenario. Once again, that phone number for the Armstrong Advisory Group, 800-393-4001.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Humane, the company that made that AI pin that got those horrible reviews a couple months ago that we talked about on air.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, this was a little pin that you attached. Similar functionality in design, at least, and hope of, let's say, a smartwatch that was AI enabled. But the idea was, hey, this might allow you to get rid of your phone, and you could ask it for directions, you could ask it questions, you could ask it to read your email.
And it basically turned out to be mostly useless.
Yeah, couldn't really do anything.
They sent an email to their users today telling them that they should immediately stop using the charging case that came with it because it may pose a fire safety risk.
This is the real danger of companies that do not have a lot of experience in building hardware, suddenly building hardware, is you can get some of the basics wrong. Like, look, even Samsung, who's pretty good, I would think, at building batteries and figuring out how to make them not catch fire, had an incident about a decade ago where a bunch of their phones were catching fire. And so for a new entrant to just jump into the hardware space, I'm not entirely shocked that you have issues like this. Fortunately, what do they sell? Like a few dozen of these things? I don't think it's going to be too big of a problem. But,
I haven't seen anyone with one.
But yeah, seems like a fitting end to this product.
I can't imagine that they're going to be around much longer at this point.
One would think not.
Which is too bad because, look, this isn't for me, but I could see I have a number of buddies who are looking into this. One who is handicapped and thought this might be a great way to improve like functionality in his life.
Great idea, terrible execution.
And he was like, it's really disappointing to me that this doesn't work because I was hoping this would be something that could change my life a little bit. Quick break here. We got hour 2 of the Financial Exchange coming up in just a little bit.
If you served in the Marine Corps, by now you know about the contaminated water problem at Camp Lejeune. If you were stationed or worked at Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1987, you probably have a lot of questions. We have some answers. You could be entitled to compensation. Billions of dollars are being allocated to pay for damages to anyone stationed at Camp Lejeune during that time. Unfortunately, it appears that officials may have known the contaminated water problem existed and did little to protect their men. The Semper Fi code was not honored. If you or someone in your family has developed a serious illness, including various forms of cancer, call this Camp Lejeune legal support line right now. You can't turn back the clock and change what happened, but you can certainly call right now and learn your rights as a Marine. Here's the number.
800-477-1736. 800-477-1736. That's 800-477-1736. Paid for by Legal Alert Line.
Are you retired like me and you just found out you owe the IRS a ton of money? Well, what would your life be like if they took your retirement savings away from you? They can do it and your property. If you owe the IRS back taxes or you haven't filed in a while, the tax relief line is here to help you. They can stop the IRS from taking your retirement savings. If you qualify, you could have your tax bill reduced to zero. That's right. If you're retired and you owe the IRS a lot in back taxes, you could have your entire tax bill reduced to zero due. The IRS has now hired thousands of new employees, so they're ready to come after you. Don't let them take your retirement savings or property. Make this free call now.
800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. 800-251-2153. That's 800-251-2153.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
This is the Money Matters Radio Network, WBNW 1120 AM and W275 CM FM, Concord, Boston, the Money Matters Radio Network.
Hi, this is Chuck and Mike from the Armstrong Advisory Group. We have a guide this month titled The Complexities of Inherited IRAs. Mike, with how the inherited IRA picture has changed in the last few years, one of the things that a lot of people need to consider is how to minimize taxation, not just across their own lifetime, but on a multi-generational basis once they're gone.
Yeah, and quite frankly, prior to these changes, IRAs were often used, especially Roth IRAs, as a kind of multi-generational inheritance plan. And these new rules have completely changed that, like I said, for most beneficiaries of retirement accounts. And so a lot of the planning that was done prior to 2020, if not haven't been looked at again, just might run contrary to your entire thoughts of what you did before these changes.
It seems to me that it makes sense now. You've got to consider the tax situation, age, and other characteristics of your beneficiaries who might not be spouses when figuring out who to name on your IRAs.
Yeah, not only that, and a lot of that stuff was considered prior too, but maybe you've got two kids with vastly different income situations. Do you consider naming one the traditional versus the other the Roth beneficiary in order to minimize total taxation across generations? These are complicated issues that I know it might sound like just applies to a small subset of Americans, but most people these days have a retirement account.
Our guide this month, again, it's titled The Complexities of Inherited IRAs, and the two ways to request it are by phone or online. Website is armstrongadvisory.com, or you can call 800-393-4001. That website, again, is armstrongadvisory.com, or the phone number is 800-393-4001. The
proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Creating a trust is oftentimes the first step in the estate planning process. It helps you prepare for the unknown as well as the inevitable. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are the most common types of trusts, but there are significant differences between the two. So before you make that crucial decision, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. Ask for their new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts. Let them help you understand which may be right for you and your family and protect the wealth that you've achieved throughout your working years. Protecting your assets is paramount to being able to enjoy your retirement years, so call right now. 866-848-5699 and get your free guide today. Give yourself the peace of mind you need as you build your estate plan. Again, that number is 866-848-5699 or request the guide online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or a week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. World cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all three islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. Go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
Hi, I'm Lisa Hughes. This Veterans Day weekend, help honor all who have served our country and join WBZ for the annual DAV 5K, a run or walk to support disabled vets here in Massachusetts with housing, transportation, and other critical support. Saturday, November 9th at DCR's Castle Island in South Boston. Let's thank all who have sacrificed for our freedom and help our heroes on their road to recovery. Visit DAV5K.Boston to register or donate today.
The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Environmental nonprofit Ocean River Institute is working with communities to tackle climate change with nature-based solutions that feature slowing water down and building more soil with grasses and plants. Research indicates that people acting in their own neighborhoods can build an inch of soil in a year and slow sea level rise down by as much as 25%. Please visit oceanriver.org for more information on opportunities to make a difference and go the distance for savvy stewardship of a greener and bluer planet Earth.
The Financial Exchange is produced by Money Matters Radio and is hosted by employees of the Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor that provides investment advisory services. All opinions expressed are solely those of the hosts, do not reflect the opinions of Armstrong Advisory or anyone else, and do not guarantee profit. Investments can lose money. This program does not offer any specific financial or investment advice. Please consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong and Money Matters Radio do not compensate each other for referrals and are not affiliated. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong. Your exclusive look at business and financial news affecting your day, your city, your world. Stay informed and up to date about economic and market trends, plus breaking business news every day. The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. Help us support our great American heroes by visiting DAV5K.Boston and making a donation today. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation. This is the Financial Exchange with Chuck Zodda and Mike Armstrong.
A little bit after 11 here on a Jobs Friday. It's Chuck, Mike, and Tucker, and markets are not really moving a ton on the equity side, with the Dow up 50 points. The S&P is up half a point, not 0.5%, half a point. And the NASDAQ down 31 points, so everything within about 0.25% of flat on the day. Not so much in bond world, where the 10-year U.S. Treasury is up 0.14% to 4.42 at the moment. Oil, West Texas Intermediate up 28 cents a barrel to 75.83. And we've got gold down 61.80 an ounce to 23.29 and 10 cents. Big takeaways from the jobs report: 272,000 jobs created, much higher than expectations of 185. Unemployment rate moved from 3.9 to 4%, and average hourly earnings up 0.4% for the month compared to 0.2% expectations. Those are the big headlines.
Bond market clearly taking this as...
The bond market's like, yo, Jay, you're not hiking.
Right.
Equity markets are kind of like, we don't know what to do.
Seemingly. Or just not much paying attention to this jobs report, but yeah.
And here's the other thing. Commodity markets, like whether you're looking at oil, gold, silver, they're all kind of like, yeah, this isn't real growth. You know, like if commodity markets believe this, oil would be up like 2%. Like, oh, look at all this extra demand that's going to come from the. It's not
US
buying
jobs
it.
Market, yeah.
You know, like it's just not buying it there. So I think that when I look at this, the bond market is clearly saying, yeah, Jay's not going to be able to cut in June or July. Beyond that, I think the rest of this is kind of looking at it skeptically, where, you know, stocks are, again, flat. I mean, the S&P is now down 4 points. It's kind of like, okay, is there any there? Like, is anything happening here?
Well, there's been this buildup of recession concern over the last few weeks. That's not, well, that could be what we end up seeing out of the next few job reports. But when you get a 270,000 jobs created, that directly contradicts it in a lot of ways. There's been some increased hope for rate cuts. That's getting wiped out here. So there's a lot of moving parts here. As we said, this is not going to be the most important jobs report we see all year. It definitely doesn't move anything for next week's Federal Reserve meeting, at least in my view. Get another uptick in unemployment by the following Fed meeting, which we will see one more jobs report by then.
Yep.
Just one, but one more. Then, okay, yeah. I mean, certainly if you have, trending towards a 0.5% increase in unemployment, then, yeah, that's reasonable. But we will see where the data goes on that.
Gas prices, by the way, continuing to slide down another 1.6 cents a gallon nationally today, and now about 20 cents off of their May highs, down to 3.47 and 1/10 of a cent, or 1/10 of a cent. Mike, there's a piece in the Wall Street Journal. No one wants a new car now. Here's why.
Yeah, so look, car prices have been elevated now since the beginning of the pandemic, and
let's be clear on one thing. Car prices that people are buying have been elevated. There are still vehicles that you can buy, new ones, in the 20s.
There are.
There are still, I believe, 2 vehicles in the teens that you can buy in the U.S.
But let's dive into that for a minute. I wonder what. Can you look up the MSRP of the 2019 Honda Civic and the 2024 Honda Civic?
Hold on just a moment.
There's been obvious price inflation on cars, but most of what we've been talking about for the last few years.
So 2019 Honda Civic was $21,305, and that was for the base. This is according to Kelley Blue Book, is that when new it was, again, the base model was $21,305.
Yep.
If I go and take a look at the new one right now, it is $23,950, so it's up
10%.
About 15% in 5 years.
Yeah, so
it's
3% well below both the overall CPI and well below, frankly, well below even car CPI would be my guess there. Although I haven't looked at new vehicles.
Yeah.
There has been, I think, one marked shift away from electric vehicles just over the last couple of years. And I don't think that's been...
From electric?
Yeah. I don't think that's been...
It's not showing up in the data. The growth rate's not as fast.
That's more what I meant. People aren't ditching their electric vehicles, but there was a lot of conversation and a lot of assumption, I think, on the part of big car makers that the growth rate was going to continue forever. And what seems to have happened is that people who wanted to buy EVs did so, and people that want inexpensive cars are not jumping into more expensive EVs.
Yeah, I think that's a fair take in the aggregate. I did see some data. I'm just trying to pull up where it is now from Ford on their EVs that actually showed some more growth than I was anticipating. See, I can't find it right now, so we'll leave it. Thank you, Tucker. But look, the case that this piece is making is that the average age of vehicles in the U.S. right now is 12.6 years, according to S&P Global Mobility. In 2014, a decade ago, the average age was 11.2 years. So it's saying, hey, people are holding on to these cars longer. And, they point out, hey, the average transaction price of a new vehicle is $47,000, but you don't have to spend that to buy a new vehicle. What we are seeing, and I don't know if this is a new trend or not, but the people who typically buy new vehicles tend to be wealthier, more affluent people, and they want the latest and greatest stuff in a lot of cases, and so they're spending more, which, again, as someone who's the proud driver of a Subaru Outback that costs meaningfully less than the average transaction price that you see here, hey, it's not my bag. I love cars, but I hate paying for them, so I don't. But in the aggregate, the people who are buying new vehicles, they are wealthier and they're willing to spend large amounts of their income and or wealth on those vehicles.
There's a psychological impact that you've talked about, Chuck, that I wonder if this is actually pervasive or just a Chuck feeling. This article, in fact, cites that it feels as though if I buy a new car today, it's going to be outdated in a couple of years. And you've made a similar statement. Like, I feel like we are on the verge of a new shift in technology when it comes to EVs, whether that's from self-driving or
new battery
plug-in
tech,
hybrids, new battery tech, like whatever that may be. Yeah. There seems to be this, I think, hesitation on a lot of people to say, why would I buy a new car? I'm going to wait 5 years and see what the tech looks like. It's advancing so rapidly that by the time I get one, it's going to be outdated and lose all of its value a year or two after I drive it off the lot. Now,
there also are people who are engaging in get off my lawn and old man yells at cloud in this piece, where there's someone who's saying, oh, I drive my old car because, it's got a V8 and the new turbo V6s just aren't the same. Well, okay, I mean, look, around the margin, yes, as someone who has driven cars with turbos, yeah, there's a little bit of turbo lag, but ultimately, horsepower and torque are horsepower and torque, and it's the band of it the band of your RPMs that you can get that in that's going to matter. So whether you do it with 4 cylinders or 6 is not really a thing.
Here is good.
Other things, people were saying, oh, like I like the old school stuff where, it's nice to have a feel for it. It feels like everything's so much more computerized. Well, I don't really hear those same people saying that they want crank down windows anymore. It's
I personally love having to put that cassette tape with the little wire attached to it into my cassette tape holder in order to listen to my iPod. So
no, you're Discman because you're still really hanging out in that world. So look, I'm someone who I like a little nostalgia as well, but it's also important to note that when we talk about how the average age of vehicles is increasing, there were a bunch of people 10, 15 years ago who were saying, oh, they don't make cars like they used to, they're not going to last. And now cars are lasting longer than they ever have. The cars that were bought 10, 15 years ago. So I think that sometimes we get into this idea that, oh, like what's new is not as good as what used to be. And I think that's a dangerous mindset to start from because it prevents you from actually accepting and liking new things that in some cases may be better, in other cases may be worse, like the humane AI pin. But hey, you got to try it to see what's out there is all I'm saying.
Here's what I'm interested in is, we had a piece the other day showing, specific vehicle brands are looking at offering discounts and lowering prices on a lot of their vehicles. We're going to be joined by Jessica Caldwell next on the show. And we both talk about the auto market and what we're seeing there in terms of averages, but Jessica has much more in-depth insight into what's going on.
She's
right
a lot
now
smarter than us
with the state of the with the car market. So Jessica Caldwell from Edmunds is joining us next to talk about trends in the new vehicle market. That's coming up on the Financial Exchange.
Breaking business and financial news first throughout the day. Only here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Inheriting an IRA was a straightforward process until the passage of the Secure Act in 2019 and the more recent changes that have made things a bit more complicated. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and it's really important that you develop a strategy to deal with these changes to the law, or you and your family could face significant tax consequences in the future. If you've inherited money from your spouse, the process remains relatively simple. But if you're inheriting an IRA from someone other than your spouse, there are numerous issues that you'll want to be aware of to protect those assets. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of our new guide called The Complexities of Inherited IRAs. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can also request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's DAVMA.org.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or a week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean. World cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all 3 islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you. So head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. Go to visitusvi.com. That's visitusvi.com.
We are the Debt Destroyer Network. Any debt you have, credit card, tax, student loan debt, call now for free information that helps you destroy your debt. It's great advice. Plus, when you make this free call now, we have debt destroyer experts ready to help. They can show you how to destroy your debt and get your life back on track. Debt problems don't have to be overwhelming. You can live stress-free and debt-free. Credit cards, medical bills, IRS tax problems, even student loan debt. Learn about free programs offered by the credit card companies, hospitals, and even the government that can help slash your debt. Call the Debt Destroyer now for free information. Call now. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. 800-430-8804. Again, that's 800-430-8804.
Missed one of our shows? Catch up anytime by asking your Alexa smart speaker to play The Financial Exchange. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
The Financial Exchange is a proud partner of the Disabled American Veterans Department of Massachusetts. This year's race is Saturday, November 9th at Fort Independence on Castle Island, and registration's now open. Help us support these great American heroes by visiting dav5k.boston and registering for this year's race. Your gifts will support a wide variety of initiatives like the DAV Transportation Program, which takes disabled vets to important medical appointments that supply both the physical and mental care they need. For more information or to make a donation, visit dav5k.boston. The DAV 5K Boston is presented by Veterans Development Corporation.
Jessica Caldwell is the head of insights at Edmunds, and she's joining us now to talk about just the state of the car market, EVs, dealership trends that they're seeing. Jessica, thanks for coming on. Appreciate it.
Yes, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
So we all got the fun experience of dealing with the, somewhat vehicle shortage during the pandemic, and I personally ended up buying a car during that trend and ended up paying one of those fun markup fees. Obviously, that trend has shifted away, and yet we're still seeing average car prices that are considerably up there. I was reading a story the other day, though, that some manufacturers are seeing some excess inventory on lots, starting to discount previous year models. What sort of trends are you seeing right now in the new vehicle market specifically?
Yeah, in the new vehicle market, I'd say that the trends are spotty. You probably remember like the glory days of buying a car where it was like every vehicle had like 0% financing for 60 months and there was tons of incentives offered. Of course, that went away when you unfortunately bought your car.
Yep.
And we're starting to see some of that come back a little bit, but it's not across the board. I mean, you have vehicles like Toyota hybrids, for example, very popular. They, the truck pulls up, those cars are already promised to other people. They're sold immediately. And on the other hand, you have vehicles, from the Dodge brand, Ram brand, Nissan brand that tend to sit around a little bit longer, thus get incentivized a lot more. So, it's not like you walk into the dealership and expect deals to be everywhere, but you can get a good deal if you're a bit more flexible, you're a bit more strategic, the deals may not be involved in every area across the country, so maybe you've got to look a little bit further than you would normally look. But they are better than, probably when you bought a car and all we talked about was an inventory shortage. Inventory has increased, and we are starting to see incentives come back stronger and stronger each month.
If we are flexible and looking for, what might be considered a good deal on a new or used vehicle, is there a class of car or a brand specifically that I should be looking at this point? I mean, I know resale value on Teslas for a number of reasons have been coming down substantially. I forget the car rental company that ended up selling a bunch of theirs, but Hertz did. Excuse me. Yeah, thank you. Where would I be looking if I have that type of flexibility with my next new car purchase?
Well, I think that the first thing is ask yourself, are you open to a lease, a new, a used, a certified pre-owned? Because, for instance, you really have to think about interest rates right now, because interest rates are quite high, especially on the used market. So if you're looking at a new vehicle with heavy incentives versus a used vehicle with no incentives, and the interest rate is 9%, right, you really got to do the math of what your monthly payment is. And even EVs, for instance, a lot of people don't necessarily have them on their radar, but they hear about these great deals. Used, definitely for EVs, because of the depreciation curve, a lot of good deals out there on used. But don't forget about the new lease EVs. But because when the vehicle is leased and it's an EV, the $7,500 tax credit automatically gets applied to that lease. So when you add some of the incentives that automakers are offering, for instance, like on the Ford F-150 Lightning, there's been a lot of incentives on that outgoing model, plus that tax credit, and you lease it, sometimes the payments could be cheaper. So you may not be someone who likes to lease, but you are getting a new vehicle, and you may be in a situation where the payments are even lower. And we don't see this too often. We saw it coming out of the recession, and we're starting to see instances where that could happen now. So it's you kind of have to look across the board to see. And it's not just about a brand or a type of vehicle. It is about the deal you're getting as well.
Jessica, a lot's been made about, I don't know if it's waning interest in electric vehicles or maybe just less interest than the manufacturers were banking on. But what do you see as the real trend in EVs right now? Is there a pushback to it, or is it just not as much growth as, say, maybe Tesla was banking on seeing in 2024?
Yeah, I think what's really happening is that it's a new technology. Everyone gets excited. You get all the early adopters on board, people that want to have the latest and greatest vehicle, to kind of show off. And those people have kind of gone through that market already. So now what happens for EVs is they kind of have to move to more of a mass market audience. Maybe somebody that doesn't have as high income is not looking for their second or third car where, range actually does matter. And I think that is part of the issue is that more mass market crowd, they have to be sold on EVs. They have concerns over battery longevity, range capabilities, charging locations. And a lot of people, when we talk to them and we survey them, a lot of people say, I just don't think owning an electric vehicle is worth the hassle, because people see it as a new thing they have to learn and do, and a new, whole new way of doing things. And I think with just pandemic burnout, people aren't necessarily open to that. So I think that's a challenge for all electric automakers moving forward, is to convince regular consumers that are not necessarily super excited about EVs, what are the benefits and how they make your life cheaper, easier, all of those things. And that's going to definitely be an uphill battle.
Jessica Caldwell is the head of insights at Edmunds, joins us today to talk about the state of the car market right now, as well as trends in EVs. Jessica, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it, and look forward to talking to you again soon.
Thank you so much.
All right, before we hit the break here on the Financial Exchange, let's do a little bit of trivia. We'll continue our state capital trivia that we've been doing all week, so here we go. What is the only state capital with 3 words in its name? Once again, what is the only state capital with 3 words in its name? Be the 10th person today to text us at 617-362-1385 with the correct answer. You can win a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt. That's 617-362-1385, and the 10th correct response will be our winner today. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Taking a quick look at markets as we head towards the bottom of the hour. The Dow is up 64 points, or about 0.2%. S&P's up 2 points, or 0.05%, and the Nasdaq lagging behind today, down 20 points, or about 0.1%. 10-year U.S. Treasury still selling off, up 13 basis points to 4.41. We've got oil up 24 cents a barrel to $75.79 on West Texas Intermediate, and gold continuing to slide today, now down 2.5%, 59.30 off the top, now down at 23.31 and 60 cents. We're going to take a quick break here, but when we come back, we're going to talk about boats and RVs. All the expensive stuff people were buying back in 2020.
This is Tucker Silva with the Financial Exchange Show, and I'm joined today by estate planning attorney Todd Lutzke with the law firm of Cushing & Dolan with your Financial Exchange Quick Tip of the Day. And today, we're talking about the differences between revocable and irrevocable trusts. Todd, is there a difference in the taxation of a revocable trust versus an irrevocable trust, and any difference in how you would file your income taxes?
So surprisingly, a lot of you might say, well, yeah, there should be a difference. And there is, but there really isn't. So let me explain. With a revocable trust, everything that you put in it is going to be titled under your Social Security number, like bank accounts and brokerage accounts, etc. Whereas items that you put into an irrevocable trust, like bank accounts and brokerage accounts or rental properties, those accounts would be set up under a tax ID number for the trust. So the trust now does need to file its own tax return. It's called a Form 1041. However, these Medicaid trusts are designed by us to make them grantor trusts for income tax purposes, which means you are the owner for income tax purposes, and all the income and gain gets reported on your personal return. So while you're filing a separate return for the irrevocable trust, you're paying exactly the same tax at your own rate, just like you did before the trust and just like you would with a revocable trust.
Well, the estate planning experts at Cushing & Dolan have written a brand new guide that will help you answer the most common questions you have about the differences between revocable and irrevocable trusts. You can request this brand new guide by calling 866-848-5699. That's 848-5699, or you can also request it from their website, legalexchangeshow.com.
The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing and Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
Hey, listen, are you a 50-year-old person looking for term life insurance? Then you need to talk to Bob. Bob specializes in helping people find $1 million or more of term life insurance for a couple of $100 a month. Look, you need to know there's a price war in the term life insurance business, and you may be paying too much. Call Bob, and he'll shop and see how much money he can save you. Look, this could be the last term life insurance policy you ever have. Your rates are guaranteed for the next 20 years. That's right, guaranteed level rates for the next 20 years. And if you're a smoker or your health is not perfect, Bob has great rates for you too. So for $1 million of term life insurance coverage for a couple of $100 a month, call Bob right now. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. 800-965-7987. That's 800-965-7987. Paid for by Term Direct.
Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group. Taxation is a critically important element to be aware of when you're building your estate plan, especially when it comes to understanding inherited IRAs. The tax treatment of these accounts depends on a variety of factors, including the specific type of IRA, the relationship between the deceased and the beneficiary, and the beneficiary's personal circumstances. In this month's new free guide from the Armstrong Advisory Group called The Complexities of Inherited IRAs, we'll help you understand the possible tax complications you could face when inheriting an IRA. Plus, we'll walk you through the recent changes to federal rules regarding these accounts. Get your free guide today by calling 800-393-4001. 800-393-4001, or you can also request the guide at armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated. The Financial Exchange Show podcast drops every day on Apple, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Hit that subscribe button and leave us a 5-star review. You're listening to the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Trivia question today was, what is the only state capital with 3 words in its name? That'll be Salt Lake City, obviously. Salt Lake City, Utah is the only state capital with 3 words in its name. Salt Lake City was founded on July 24th, 1847 by Brigham Young. Utah was admitted into the Union on January 4th, 1896. Daniel from Enfield, Connecticut is our winner today, taking home a Financial Exchange Show t-shirt, and we play trivia every day here on the Financial Exchange. Tune in on a Monday for your chance to win. See complete contest rules at financialexchangeshow.com.
Do either of you even know what the capital of Nevada is?
Yeah.
I'm assuming it's not Las Vegas.
No.
Reno.
Nope.
Really?
Carson City.
Oh, that's right.
I see.
It's always a good one. Maryland.
Not Baltimore.
Delaware.
Annapolis. What? That's a state. Anyways, let's talk a little bit about...
we don't need to embarrass both Tucker and I.
No, listen. If we want to embarrass someone, we'll just ask Paul Lane grocery prices. And that's an entire show.
That'll be coming up next month.
Or Mike Drug pronunciation names.
No. Just any pronunciation. Let's talk about boats and RVs. And the reason why we want to talk about these right now is that back in 2020, when everyone was saying, I'm going to buy a boat with this stimulus check here. That's the voice they used too.
It was.
I said, hey, just wait a few years and you're going to see all kinds of great deals on used boats.
I'm jumping in here. I'm going to buy a smoker and a solo stove. I'm going to put them on my boat and trail that thing with my new RV.
It's not a bad idea, Mike.
It's a pretty bad idea.
Sounds like a good weekend.
Putting a solo stove on your boat sounds like a very bad idea, actually.
Fire on a boat, really bad. Really bad.
Second worst place you can have a fire.
Where's the worst?
Airplane.
A boat might be worse.
No.
I would say boat could be worse.
Yeah.
They say it's smokeless, though, so...
But not fireless.
That's true.
It's not a fireless fireplace. Anyways, what other kinds of dumb stuff?
Pelotons.
Not dumb stuff, but what other purchases that people are now regretting did people buy in 2020?
I mean, the most pronounced one has to be a Peloton. I can't,
Yeah.
Percentage discount-wise of what you would pay for one today compared to what you had to pay 70%? For one in 2020, that's got to be up there. I doubt boats are 70% off pandemic prices.
Probably not. I don't know enough about boats to be I don't know how you price boats.
I hear you. We don't frequently look at that index measure of inflation. I mean, we jokingly said homes in Florida. But you're not seeing any significant price discounts there. By and large, you're seeing some, but it's not off Peloton prices.
Here's what we are seeing, though. Brunswick, who is the world's largest maker of pleasure boats. They don't make, giant container ships. They make boats for fun. First quarter sales down 22% from a year ago. Operating income down 53%. They're saying that retail boat sales this year will end up being what they looked like in 2012 or 2013. So you've got that. Other things that you saw. Brunswick also bought Freedom Boat Club, which is one of these setups.
Oh, yeah.
It might be the biggest one out there, where you pay a fixed annual fee and you get to basically use boats in all these different locations. I think it might even be around the world now, not just in the U.S. You have to go through like a training and certification
It's a
thing.
couple by me.
There's a bunch. They're everywhere now. And membership has still tripled since they acquired them during the pandemic. And the attrition is only about 10% a year. So stuff like that is holding up better, where the people who've approached boats as a service are saying, yeah, I want to continue boating. The people who are buying boats or who bought boats are kind of like, I'm good, and I might be selling.
Well, in many cases, they also probably couldn't afford them. I mean, I don't know a worse thing than getting a boat loan. Like, I guess running up credit card debt every 6 months substantially might be considered worse, but like getting a loan on a boat is tough.
Yeah,
that's a tough one.
RVs have been worse in terms of sales of new ones. So what we are seeing, I'll just quote here from the Wall Street Journal: the boom and bust for RVs has been steeper, initially hampered by supply chain issues. The industry geared up and hit a monthly record for North American deliveries of 64,000 in March 2022. That's a pace of almost 750,000 annually. Yeah. It's a lot of RVs. That was also the month that the Federal Reserve began raising interest rates. Within a year, monthly shipments had dropped by more than half, and with the decline being much sharper for pricey motorhomes than for trailers. Meanwhile, the number of used units listed for sale on RV Trader is more than twice as high as during the period of peak demand.
50% increase. Ouch.
So it's I will say, look, if you're now sitting there saying, hey, I'm interested in getting into boating and RVing.
Yeah, now's the time.
It appears to be a buyer's market. I don't know if it's going to get worse or better from here because I'm not plugged into any of these areas, but this would seem to be the time where you say, yeah, I could probably find a lightly used one of these that someone bought 2 years ago that they're not using.
Yeah, unfortunately for me, I just don't know you can trail any of these with a minivan.
There's no better place to vacation than the United States Virgin Islands. St. Croix, St. Thomas, and St. John have everything you need to enjoy a spectacular romantic getaway or week-long family vacation. From the moment you arrive, you'll fall naturally in rhythm with the heartbeat of the islands. The weather is perfect all year round, so book now and experience the most beautiful beaches anywhere in the Caribbean, world-class cuisine, iconic history, a wide variety of water sports, and an energetic nightlife. There's no money to exchange, no passport required, and travel from New England could not be easier. Make your plans now by going to visitusvi.com. Learn about all 3 islands and plan the ideal vacation for you and your family. America's Caribbean paradise is waiting for you, so head to visitusvi.com for more information and to reserve your trip today. That's visitusvi.com.
Mike, how much cash do you carry around at this point? Is it more or less than $1 million?
Substantially less. $0 as of this very instant.
I usually keep, enough, like, I'll keep a few 20s floating around just so I could pay for something in a pinch. But other than that, I really don't carry much cash right now.
I have a bunch under the floorboards of my, of
your boat. Of your boat. So...
Thought it was just you and I for a second.
No. It's just you, me, and Tucker.
Oh, got it.
So,
which floor?
Don't worry about it. So, when we talk about paying for cash, one of the areas where it's become much more difficult is any kind of sporting event now, where most sporting events have gone cashless. And you might say, well, gee, isn't that illegal? And the answer is
no.
No, because what they also provide are these reverse ATM machines where you put your cash in and get out a debit card, not debit card, I guess a...
Preloaded debit card,
preloaded debit card that takes a small fee, usually anywhere from 1% to 3%, in order for that transaction to occur. It makes you feel just wonderful.
It's so funny how this has gone in the exact opposite direction.
Isn't it wild?
Yeah, it is. It's just funny.
But what you used to have was, hey, you used to maybe get a cash discount for buying something because, we don't want to charge these, high. Even in some places, you still do get a cash discount.
Yeah, I mean, that's the funny thing is,
other day.
I was at I was in New York, as I mentioned, over Memorial Day weekend, and we went to this. They have a weekly thing in Brooklyn, a farmer's market type thing. No, it wasn't a farmer's market.
What kind of farming do they do in Brooklyn these days?
It was not a farmer's market. It was like a restaurant market where they just all set up tents.
That seems more reasonable.
And many of them desperately did not want to take your credit card. They wanted cash and were offering discounts but it's 2024 in Brooklyn. Nobody had any cash.
No, exactly. It's a bunch of hipsters trying to pay with crypto.
Of course.
So you're seeing this kind of reversal in a number of areas. Cash is still the third most popular way to complete a transaction in the U.S., accounting for 16% of all payments in 2023. But that's down 2 percentage points from the prior year.
Credit, debit, cash?
I'm guessing. And then I would assume that check is probably a distant fourth.
Right.
I still remember when I was at my first job at the grocery store as a cashier, like 2 people a shift who would try to pay for groceries with a check. You'd have to get the manager to come to. It was like a whole thing. It drove the thing to a halt. And I don't even know if like a lot of grocery stores accept checks at this point. But cash right now, look, this business of turning cash into ATM cards has become big money somehow. And as someone who knows a couple people who run like private ATMs, the ones that you might see in like a convenience store or something like that, there's a lot of money that gets made off of those fees. Like I have a buddy who put himself through college with like 4 or 5 of those. And I just can't think of something that should have significantly lower fees than that, because there's really not much utility that you get from it. It's just turning your money from one form into another. And to have to pay 1% to 3% in order to do so, it's kind of obscene.
It is.
Kind of absurd.
It's absolutely wild, and I have to tell you, I just kind of laugh that these venues are getting away with it. But they are.
Let's take a quick break here. When we come back, we're joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's right after this.
Business and financial news affecting the markets and your wallet. We've got it all straight from Wall Street right here on the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Are you looking to volunteer for an amazing nonprofit organization that helps our veterans? The DAV Department of Massachusetts Transportation Network needs volunteers right now. This network provides free transportation to and from any VA medical appointment for veterans of all eras. To become a volunteer driver, you do not need to be a veteran or a DAV member. You just need to have the willingness to help our veterans and have a valid driver's license. Sign up now at davma.org. That's davma.org.
Creating a trust helps you prepare for the unknown. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are most common, but contain significant differences. Cushing & Dolan's new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts may help you choose the right trust for you and your family. Call 866-848-5699. That's 866-848-5699, or request the guide online at legalexchangeshow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and/or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
For 40 years, Cancer Support Community has been a relentless ally for anyone impacted by cancer, with free services provided online and in person, with their newest location in Massachusetts. Connect with Cancer Support Community Massachusetts for free emotional support, educational resources, patient navigation, financial counseling, and more. 617-797-3391. CancerSupportMass.org. CancerSupportMass.org.
Inheriting an IRA was a straightforward process until the passage of the Secure Act in 2019 and the more recent changes that have made things a bit more complicated. Hi, this is Mike Armstrong from the Armstrong Advisory Group, and it's really important that you develop a strategy to deal with these changes to the law, or you and your family could face significant tax consequences in the future. If you've inherited money from your spouse, the process remains relatively simple. But if you're inheriting an IRA from someone other than your spouse, there are numerous issues that you'll want to be aware of to protect those assets. Call us right now at 800-393-4001 and ask for your copy of our new guide called The Complexities of Inherited IRAs. That number again is 800-393-4001, or you can also request it online from our website, armstrongadvisory.com.
The proceeding was paid for by Armstrong Advisory Group, a registered investment advisor. Nothing in the ad or in any Armstrong guide is specific financial, legal, or tax advice. Consult your own financial, tax, and estate planning advisors before making any investment decisions. Armstrong may contact you to offer investment advisory services. Creating a trust is oftentimes the first step in the estate planning process. It helps you prepare for the unknown as well as the inevitable. Revocable and irrevocable trusts are the most common types of trusts, but there are significant differences between the two. So before you make that crucial decision, call Cushing & Dolan at 866-848-5699. Ask for their new guide called The Difference Between Revocable and Irrevocable Trusts. Let them help you understand which may be right for you and your family and protect the wealth that you've achieved throughout your working years. Protecting your assets is paramount to being able to enjoy your retirement years. So call right now, 866-848-5699, and get your free guide today. Give yourself the peace of mind you need as you build your estate plan. Again, that number is 866-848-5699, or request the guide online from their website, LegalExchangeShow.com. The proceeding was paid for, and the views expressed are solely those of Cushing & Dolan. Cushing & Dolan and or Armstrong Advisory may contact you offering legal or investment services. Cushing & Armstrong do not endorse each other and are not affiliated.
It happens all over Massachusetts.
Can you tie my shoes?
In every home and every community.
Be careful on your bike.
Learning can happen anytime, anywhere.
We'll see you at practice this weekend.
And no matter how learning takes place in your family's life, Desi is there as your partner. The Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. Never stop learning. Find out more at mass.gov/back-to-school.
Sponsored by the Massachusetts Department for Elementary and Secondary Education.
Miss any of the show? Catch up at your convenience by visiting financialexchangeshow.com and clicking the on-demand icon, where you'll find all of our interviews and full shows. This is your home for the latest business and financial news in New England and around the country. This is the Financial Exchange Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, the weekend.
We're now joined by Paul LaMonica from Barron's, here to talk a little bit about Robinhood, going deeper into the crypto space. Paul, how are you today?
I'm good, thanks. How are you guys doing?
Doing well. Did we time travel back to 2021 or 22 with this deal? What's going on here?
I know. It's fascinating to see. Robinhood is all the rage again. And it's not really necessarily because of the revival of meme stock trading as everyone gets ready for that Roaring Kitty YouTube appearance, live streaming coming up. Yes, Robinhood is still a place for people to trade some of the most popular stocks of the day, but they are making a big acquisition in the crypto world, buying Bitstamp for $200 million, and that will increase Robinhood's presence in the crypto market, which is already about 20% of overall revenue.
What does Bitstamp actually do?
Yeah, so Bitstamp, is an internationally based crypto platform that caters a lot more to institutional clients, so hedge funds, is more than, say, retail traders. They have an exchange that runs in, that has, that you can trade more than nearly 100 digital assets. They have institutional lending as well. But the big deal for Robinhood is that this will increase their customer base in Europe, Asia, and other international markets. The U.S. obviously still primarily Robinhood's, main area of focus.
When you look at them trying to get into those other markets, do they have any meaningful conventional trading presence there, or is this kind of the first foray into those in a lot of cases for Robinhood?
No, they do, but I think this will really boost Robinhood's presence internationally, particularly when it comes to the crypto market. So I think that's what investors are excited about. The stock was up on the news yesterday. As you know, a lot of times company shares fall when they're announcing an acquisition, but stock up yesterday and again today, and it's surged more than 75% this year. So there's a lot of enthusiasm, and I think a lot of that has to do with the rise in Bitcoin prices, back near record levels. That's helping Robinhood and its competitor Coinbase as well.
What about the fact that in the U.S. you now have the ability, at least on the Bitcoin side of things, you got all these Bitcoin ETFs that, came out left and right earlier this year. Doesn't seem like they're getting a ton of traction after that initial wave of interest. How much interest is there in crypto at this point? I'm just struggling to get a sense of what's there right now.
Yeah, with Robinhood, if you look at their earnings from a year ago in the most recent quarter, crypto-related transaction revenue was up more than 230%, and that was a big reason why their overall revenue was up 40% in the quarter. I think that there are still a fair number of investors that are embracing crypto and are a little more sophisticated and want to buy and sell some of these cryptocurrencies, not just Bitcoin, but Ethereum and many others, at the spot prices, not necessarily through an ETF. So yes, there are ETFs and numerous spot-related ETFs that allow you to buy and sell, Bitcoin that way, as well as Ether ETFs that are going to be coming soon too. But I think more sophisticated investors, crypto world beyond Bitcoin and Ethereum, and are happy that Robinhood is increasing the amount of cryptocurrencies that they can buy and sell and trade on the platform.
Very good. Paul, appreciate you joining us today. Thanks so much for the time, and I hope you have a great weekend.
Thanks a lot, guys. Have a good one.
That is Paul LaMonica from Barron's talking about Robinhood and their acquisition of Bitstamp. Mike, what do you got for me?
36% of Americans think real estate is the best long-term investment, and from a lot of perspectives, I get it, right? I mean, there are a lot of advantages you get, especially when buying your primary residence, when it comes to investment return on real estate. So I get people's thinking on this. You think about the capital gains exemption when you go to sell it. You think about
deductibility of interest
home buyer,
and stuff like that.
A lot of advantages to make owning a home a really good investment over a long term, especially if you can put in your own sweat equity, right? That's not something that's possible in other areas of the market. This piece from CNBC then takes that to somehow confuse the issue with, hey, maybe you should invest in real estate investment trusts if you can't buy a home. Quote, real estate investment trusts can be a great way to start as they have low barrier to entry, said Stacey Francis,
Is this
a certified
sponsored by
financial
someone?
planner. And it doesn't seem to be. I even looked at this person's disclosure documents. I didn't see anything in terms of anything other than an interest in real estate investment trusts. And I just want to convey to everybody out there, without going into hours of detail, real estate investment trusts and owning your primary residence have nothing to do with each other, and don't confuse the two.
No.
I could spend a lot more time. It'll get me too fired up. We don't have that much time on a Friday, but this is just crazy talk. A real estate investment trust and a primary residence, from the makeup of the investment, from the composition, from the type of real estate it owns, have nothing to do with each other. And furthermore, real estate investment trusts as a sector, the real estate sector, according to S&P Global, has underperformed the overall S&P 500 by close to 50% over the last decade. So just start there. Start there.
It's a good place to start.
Yeah.
Taking a look at markets, the Dow is up 54 points. The S&P is up 3. NASDAQ down 7. So pretty quiet. Remember I told you this would not be the most important jobs report ever?
Yeah.
Guess who was right?
Yeah.
At least to equity markets. Bond market selling off still, with the 10-year Treasury up 13 basis points to 4.41. We're done for the day and the weekend. Hope you all have a fantastic first weekend of June, and we'll see you back here on Monday on the Financial Exchange.
Inheriting an IRA was a straightforward process until the passage of the Secure Act in 2019 and the more recent changes that have made